after the revelation of Leroy Benjamin's corpse off of Harlow in a drainage ditch boulevard, leading to the identification of the bones found in Corbin Johnson's in this video. I'm in Northwest Jacksonville. Go through a list of each operation. That Foolio murdered with such brutality, and on the inventory we possess Trayvon Bullard, Youngie brother, with someone better to begin this list than the best op Youngie Ace in Foolio. Sadly, in this story of Foolio's brutality, Youngie Ace wasn't the one who it was his younger brother that was slain. Endured the repercussions, but Youngie A was shot, thus he didn't make it out alive. In the assault, how did this happen 8 times? Descend on the evening of June 5, 2018, began as a joyous occasion. Youngie Ace was going out with Trayvon Bullard, his brother, and 2 close companions, Devin Smith Jr. and Royale and Jacob Groover, who was absent. Honoring Trayvon as he turns 18 landmark that ought to have been reached with delight and merriment as the evening drew closing, they made the decision to return home. The mood was laid back and they were on their alert. Was depressed as they discussed the positive they didn't have much time, did they? Understand that their lives were about to broken in the most heinous manner possible when the company arrived at a suddenly, out of nowhere, a red light, a second vehicle approached them in open fire, letting out a barrage of bullets. Ace and his pals were on the scene when horrifying and disorganized gunfire flew, breaking the windows via the air while smashing through the vehicle. Ace was struck. He was shot once in the hand, 8 times. 6 times in his arm, and once in his buttocks. In spite of the agonizing agony, Ace made an effort to shield his sibling, and although the assailants weren't pals, they were unwavering. I won't lie, ITR too similar to shield. My younger brother, 23, was his birthday, so I made an effort to protect him and ensure that he was excellent. But Joe and Trayvon Royale were all struck more than once. Trayvon was shot, Royale was filmed once, 3 times, and Job also sustained several gunshot wounds. When the gunshots eventually ceased, the Trayvon's aftermath was heartbreaking. At the scene, Royale were declared dead. Jacob was sent to the hospital right away, but passed away from his wounds soon after. Ace somehow made it through the onslaught, but in serious condition, struggling to protect his life. You're probably wondering by now, what role does Foolio play in this murder? So allow me to offer you a background. Foolio's cousin was Zion Brown. He was killed at his residence in DeAndre Thomas in 2017. With a little amount of upon investigation, it was evident that DeAndre, Youngin, Ace, and Thomas were good buddies, and in a TK's group. Thus, it's really possible that Youngin Ace was attacked 2018, served as recompense for what they had carried out in 2017 on Foolio's relative. Then he composed a whole song upon seeing you. Devoted to the murder specifics, the song's lyrics make the guys feel like they were discovered to be deficient on July 4th. Everyone is curious as to why they went out to eat on his birthday. 3 people are shot dead. The worst manner to supplement that, in his Dead Ops, Foolio raps Ace the song list, only 1 lived. And it seems fortunate. If do you think he's still attempting to get even? Recall that you misplaced 3 lyrics, for example. Things have sparked speculation and conjectures on Foolio's potential relationship to the assault and death of Trayvon Bullard, the brother of Youngin Ace Corbin Johnson, the Corbin Odell Story Johnson. Danishes starting on a day that seemed normal on July 11, 2018, when Corbin, then 18, was last observed by his relatives and friends, leaving about his regular schedule. But how did it begin? As a typical day quickly became a horror that would follow his beloved ones for the whole year. Starting on the day he vanished, he was scheduled for a job interview at 400 p.m. at Amazon. Corbin's pals, Jerica Sims, and an additional companion used FaceTime to talk to him. He said he was awaiting a lift. Following his interview, inquiring as to if they might get for him a meal in accordance Corbin's missing person report, Father Corey Mormon delivered him to 50 p.m. Seeking an additional interview for a position with half an hour later, Corey picked him up from UPS. They took him to the home of his mother on Bay Circle, Melissa Mormon Jack Biscayne, when Corbin's mother last saw him, precisely at 9:30 p.m. same evening. His father told police that he had mailed him a SMS message during the next morning 8:45 a.m., but I never heard back. That was not like him at all when Corbin ignored his father's SMS message by 6:30 p.m. Anxiety was starting to mount. On July 13, Corbin's relatives formally said that he was absent from Jacksonville Sheriff's Department, started an inquiry, but in spite of their efforts for a whole year, no leads materialized. The village of Corbin's Trail became silent, joined forces to coordinate the search celebrations and raising awareness, but no hints, no indicators, and no alleviates the suffering caused by ignorance. Corbin's experience impacted greatly on his friends and then family. On July 11, 2019, in the evening, precisely 1 year after Corbin's abduction, clearing land in the northwest of the city side, used his to make a horrifying discovery. Unearthed skeleton remains of tractor, enclosed in a bag made of plastic. Afterwards, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office determined that the bones belonged to Corbin Johnson. You guys are most likely in amazement at the graphic descriptions of this murder, but over time, Julio has more than 5 songs made fun of the youngster. We are discussing the Dead Ops list. Of among them are CCG and Dead Ops P2. On the Dead Ops Part 2 list, Foolio rapped after Corbin was abducted. His bones rotted, and to make matters worse, he created this tweet using Corbin's thigh at Top Golf. The bone is a golf club. That whole one much more demeaning. His things like these that pertain to death make individuals wonder whether Foolio had a role in Corbin's enigmatic abduction. And Prosper Natron Johnson's smoking murder flourish and Tay passed away on the same day. It is a line from Foolio's repertoire of songs. Dead Ops Part 2. Although it's usual for them to pretend or tell lies in their music, this specific lyric is just too audacious to disregard, as if it were an obvious confession. Rumors that he was the one looking at the crime either had some of his gang murder them members and KT carry out the task, as was Prosper was slain when the gunshot occurred at the Linda Drive 7300 block, just to the northwest of Interstate and Lim Turner 95. It was Sunday night at around 9:00 p.m. when 3 males were on Linda Drive, ambushed and covered in gunfire, leaving 2 ladies and 3 men dead. For the victims of this horrible, Prosper Natron, 17, was involved in the incident. Johnson, Bobby Norris, age 26, and DAI1, a 20-year-old woman, was an observer, reported seeing corpses spread out on the street and likened the gunfight to a parking lot of the adjacent combat zone flat block, soon become full with both worried locals and bystanders frantic to learn if their loved one among the casualties at the site was tumultuous, with individuals hurrying seeking clarification when the cops and the medical assistants showed there on time. DAI, Bobby Norris, III, and Ron Johnson were all declared deceased on the spot. The pair of females entangled in the blast were transported to Jacksonville's UF Health. At first, it was thought that both shot ladies, but after it was found that only one was injured while the other was wounded in gunfire, the mayhem that followed was likewise very challenging for the cop to do their jobs. Inquiry moved slowly because residents were afraid to talk, because they were a gunshot hole was discovered by their safety police. 2 flat tires on one vehicle and 2 in another, most likely brought on by the firing, but the cops didn't provide any notification. Although there were no recorded arrests, neighborhood has seen its fair share of violence. In December of the previous year, capturing Ahmad, 53 miles, Franklin was fatally shot while awaiting the homecoming of a kid. In July 2009, Kelly Reichardt Hill, age 23, discovered shot dead in his automobile. Gap in the perception that these occurrences have made locals feel insecure, and Big Baby Dion is frantically seeking change. Crowden, a 16-year-old pupil, attended high school Rains in Jacksonville, Florida, where he participated actively in the Grand Park Sports Association, in which he a football player. Devin's mother had recently left him at the bus station so that he may take the school bus. It was a regular morning, same as any other, but soon after, things changed at 6:30 in the morning. December 10, the 2014 cops addressed an allegation of gunshots on Canal Street and 13th A Street. Up to 15 neighbors reportedly heard them. Gunfire, and when the cops got there, they discovered Devin's corpse on the street, having sustained many gunshot wounds. The more than a dozen people marked the site. Mars shell casing indicates oblique evidence of the aggression that had happened as he was waiting for the bus. Not selling drugs while waiting to go to school when he was fatally shot. That's a concern, Daryl, the neighbor added. Who knew Crowe? How is Fio? Alustin associated with this occurrence prior to his in a slew of interviews. murdered Foolio, explained how he was shot at 15. It is said that he got into a brawl, and is due to the altercation at school. He was removed and had to move to another this Jacksonville school. Nevertheless, he was in his operations neighborhood.
Sent me to the school, right, in my aunt's neighborhood. So one of the boys from that hood actually died that morning.
The morning of his initial day of education, a child who was going to shot and died while boarding the school bus. And his peers held him accountable for the homicide during the academic year. Foolio went on Facebook and mocked the youngster that died on the bus, further escalating the issue after school. Foolio rode the bus home for hours, and as he walked off, he was shot and ambushed. Few times in his waist, but fortunately he made it through and was taken to the hospital. Given these two instances, there have been claims that Foolio is most likely accountable for Devon's demise. In addition, hurry up until 2021, Foolio would also talk about the event in his rap song Dead Op song list with lyrics. Growing up, infant was found to be deficient in the bus was traveling to Savage Lenford School. Smith, on what seemed to be a typical Friday, the JSO, or Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, made a terrible finding that would send shockwaves that go through the inner community. A house just a block away on Broadway Avenue, the two corpses were found north of Beaver Street. The victims, guys, were discovered shot to death. Were recognized as Leonard S.M., age 26. Smith, accompanied by Charles Eunice, 25, Smith, Lenford. Having resided in the over a number of years, the neighborhood was often seen caring for his yard or conversing with Charles Eunice. A neighbor nonetheless was a resident of Florida Avenue in the east side of Jacksonville. Despite residing in various regions of the Eunice, was a regular visitor to the city of Smith's house, and the two had a strong relationship companionship, and the revelation of their physical selves signaled the start of a fierce examination of that fateful Friday evening. Police officers in detail examined the murder site and spoke with witnesses, and evidence collection, in spite of their extensive search, turned up nothing. Located, this essential item inside the house of proof is still lacking, adding there's already another level of mystery here. Perplexing situation when the firearm is missing left detectives with further inquiries than response, leaving the community behind, wondering how someone could have done such a horrific deed. By the Jacksonville Sheriffs, the office has asked anybody with knowledge to move ahead and highlight the community assistance's significance in resolving this issue when everyone is in Jacksonville has not spoken anything about. Conversely, the issue. Foolio has been vociferous in his lyrics about murder. I heard that he closes up the dead ops list. While sliding, Lenford passed away with stripes. This has sparked rumors that, like a tiger, Foolio may have sent individuals to be killed following this catastrophe. Lenford family and friends joined forces to pay tribute to Lenford Smith's memory, and Charles Eunice, despite their lives being cut, have made an impression on those who knew them. On the evening of March 10, 2019, Jacksonville was devastated by a vicious ambush that left 30-year-old Jeremy, known as R. Dead R, a resident of Brookins. The entourage of Jacksonville rapper Yen Ace was fatally struck by gunfire at the It's Terrible that Hampton is in the parking lot. Occurred just a few hours after Eunice's performance became a night of celebration turned into a nightmare. Began for Yukin Ace in the same way as any other his sidekick. The rapper, whose true identity is Key Bullard, was doing a performance at a Waycross, Georgia nightclub. The audience was excited, and there was a buzz. And it appeared like the evening was meant to among the entourage. Success was Jeremy Brookins, 30, is well known among his family and friends, as Ari was an eager Jacksonville rapper with aspirations in music. To establish himself in the music business, dreamed of being well known. With Youngin A, he had a strong interest and heard this as his opportunity to enter the field. Intersection. When they arrived, what they discovered was an unbelievable sight of terror at about 400 p.m. Officers reacted to claims that there had been a shooting. When they got there, they saw a young guy subsequently identified as Eldridge, a buffer 23, inside a parked automobile. He was years old, been shot many times, and was declared dead on the spot by witnesses claimed to have seen 2 or 3 males approach Eldridge's car prior to. After firing once, the shooter left the scene inside an automobile that swiftly vanished from view. The reason why this horrible deed is still unknown, and investigators are still unsure on whether the I heard the shooting was related to gangs bullets and saw the vehicle accelerating away. It's terrible to believe that something such as this may occur in our Eldridge, a neighborhood, didn't deserve based on information for Jack's records. This was the 72 Nen killing in Jacksonville, was the 6th in that year, and July on its own. The sheer quantity these killings served as a sobering reminder of the violence that the city was afflicted with when the unidentified killer, Foolio, provided a clue to the reason Eldridge died on his song list. Eldridge passed away while he was in dead ops. Whichever direction he was heading, snitching darned to grasp it. The whole circumstance becomes even more intricate when fresh data on the murder was made public. It seems that Eldridge had a Facebook page that, looking back, showed alarming indications of the problem about 4 hours before to his premature death. Beth Buford left a terrifying message that I am unable to trust anybody with this. Remark that appeared out of nowhere suggested a pervasive distrust and paranoia. Buford seemed to detect the imminent risk, but didn't feel like I could flee it for 3 hours before to being shot down for charity. Yet another enigmatic. The words 1000x pills appears as a jar. This article not only recommended using Skittles his engagement in unlawful pursuits, although it also revealed a degree of carelessness and audacity in a buddy said, "I'll be through later big." Buford on Silver Street. Discovered Buford doing crack cocaine inside. Marijuana tablets, a pistol, and a rifle. He accepted a guilty plea to cocaine possession and was given probationary time, as well as a fine. A second SWAT squad attack on his arrest occurred on West 25th Street, due to once again in possession of cocaine. He begged, found guilty, served time, and was given a nice. The terrible events that transpired on the difference between Pearl Street and Buford's hopes for a more fulfilling existence. While seated in his brand new red Mazda 6, three males moved up to a fire that was open, giving him no opportunity to flee. The wall was dotted with 14 gunshot holes. Where the Mazda was parked was a bleak evidence of the violence that had burst, and for each operation that, if you liked, Foolio slaughtered them violently. Whilst viewing this video, choose one of the boxes on your display to see comparable material.